Welcome to the episode of the Love and Reality Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down the first three episodes of Vanderpump Villa that debuted on April 1st on Hulu, along with episode 3 of The Valley. Flying solo this week for this episode. Sorry, a little bit of a episode delay. I recently had shoulder surgery and have been dealing with some stuff because of that. So bringing you this week's episode a day later. Programming note, April 17th, The Circle is returning to Netflix. It's definitely going to be interesting. If you're a fan of The Circle, I will be breaking down The Circle here on the Love and Reality Podcast. There is one interesting twist that there is an AI cast member. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I would love to know your thoughts on that and whether or not you're going to be checking out The Circle on Netflix. Before we jump in, please do me a favor. If you can leave a 5-star review on wherever you're listening to podcasts, whether that's on Spotify or Apple, I would greatly appreciate those reviews, and 5-star ratings go a long way in helping deliver the Love and Reality Podcast to many people across the world. If you're listening here on the YouTube channel, if you could hit that subscribe button, I would definitely greatly appreciate it, along with hitting that like button. It would be much help. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into episode 3 of The Valley. Obviously, we kick off with Brittany and Jax. They are what looks like a little flea market, pop-up flea market type of thing. They basically send their kid off with Brittany's mother so that they can talk about the night. This kind of get a little bit dicey, as we saw, because of everything that unfolded. Kristen brought up Janet. Told Jasmine that Michelle, it was like the whisper in one person's ear, and then it goes around the table, and then the whole entire story gets twisted, crazy, wild across the board. Of course, it got brought up that Michelle, being a Republican, potentially a racist, her words apparently got twisted. Zach told Kristen, yada, yada, yada. And again, by the time it gets to the front confrontation here, it was insane here with the women. Michelle's upset what was said about her, obviously, so he talks to Jesse about it. These two just have no connection at all. It's weird how much these two just are incredibly polar opposite of people. They were cussing at the table, which caused their kid to cuss, and it was funny because they went back and forth. Michelle confronted Janet about if she is the one that talked to Kristen about the whole situation. She said, and Janet said it was complete BS. She is furious with Kristen. Michelle said, I'm not a Republican, but even if I was, who gives a fuck? Of course, we get Kristen and Luke. Kristen brought up what went down and brought up Zach and what he said behind closed doors, that Michelle was homophobic and racist. She said Zach told her in confidence, and now Kristen is crying. Now, this is the thing. This is where there's some normalcy within these cast of characters, and that's just Luke. Luke is a everyday person that just enjoys life, wants to have a normal relationship, but realizes he's dating a somewhat celebrity that is going through some shit. Because he says, when someone tells you something, just put it in your back pocket. Don't say nothing, don't do nothing, etc., etc. We had a funny little bonding moment between Danny and Naya, where Danny is on the verge of having to watch the kids for a weekend by himself, so she stocked up on baby milk and stuff like that. So that was hilarious. Just watching him and then watching him struggle. We saw a little bit of a clip of some of the struggle that he was going with the babies consistently crying. I mean, it was funny. It was nice to see Naya kind of get out. It's nice to see a father be able to, just say, hey, yeah, go do what you got to do. I'm going to hold down the fort. It might be hard. I might not sleep for a couple days, but I'm going to hold down the fort so you can kind of go do what you need to do. We got Jax talking about opening his bar. A lady named Miranda pops up, and she wasn't wearing a bra, and Jax had to just let us know that she wasn't wearing a bra. And it was just an interesting dynamic here. If Jax doesn't end up banging her, I would be shocked. But that's just me. This Jax character, he seems like somebody that just is not the most faithful individual in the entire world. Definitely got an interesting conversation here, followed by Brittany and Kristen, who are chatting with each other over this little lunch. Kristen doesn't understand why everyone is mad at her. Kristen called Zach. Zach said the Republican thing was said, but he said the racist wasn't brought up. And of course, Zach is mad because she said it out loud. Zach tells the camera that Kristen can't keep a secret. So this is my thing. We all have a friend out there in the world that if we tell a secret to, we know for sure that it's not going to be kept, right? What we know that they're going to spill the beans. So why keep telling her the truth? Why keep telling her any secrets at all? That's my thing. First things first is let's go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off. The entire thing made Kristen look bad, and I believe Kristen. Now, I do think that again, the conversation does hinder around, getting it back to. By the time it got to Kristen, the full circle was the racism thing brought up. Maybe the conversation was had. Should she have kept her mouth shut? Absolutely. And one circle, and the other side is Zach should be standing up and saying, "Yes, I said this specific thing, and maybe it got to this by the time it got to this person." We have a life coach that has arrived with Michelle and Jess. And the coach's goal is to make the best version of themselves. Jesse said that there is a lot of constant conflict. Michelle said there's a lot of needs that aren't being met. She says she feels lonely, frustrated because he doesn't understand her. They aren't affectionate towards one another. And she said he's very, very hard on her. He said there's a major disconnect with them. They don't compliment one another. And then the coach asked, when was the last time she felt sexually attracted towards him? And she said she doesn't want to answer that. She said it has been a while. And then he goes on just a tangent about, the lack of sex and so forth and so forth. And I'm going to be honest, this moment, it was hard to watch because Michelle, you can tell how honest and frustrated and sad that Jesse or Michelle is. She just feels, and you can, after watching this, you can see there's just so much disconnect between these two that it's no surprise that they really did split up, because he is such, I don't know, he's not an asshole. Is asshole the right word? Asshole will describe what he does later on, and I'll explain that whenever we talk about this big old dinner scene. But she just feels like she's flying solo. You can tell he's not an attentive dad from even just the mere moments that we're watching it. And that attraction is gone. It's just a relationship and a marriage that's just completely gone downhill. Not really surprising to see that go down the way it has, but this was very, very, very hard to watch. All right. Let's see here. They're throwing it now later that night or later that day, whatever it was. I don't know the dynamic here. Jesse and Michelle are throwing an insane party at $18.5 million listing. And just the way he talks to her in this moment here, like he kept on saying sophisticated, and she was like, "Don't say that." And he was just like, "What is?" And he just, the way he just demeans her and belittles her, it really is just like, ugh. Jason and Janet are talking to Michelle, are talking about how she was supportive of an anti-LGBTQ bill that was being proposed, and about the whole "don't say gay" thing. So again, there's some truth to what is being told around, by everybody. Luke and Kristen arrive at the party. Everyone is talking about talking. Listen to this. This is crazy. We have a big table full of about 20 people. I think it was maybe 18. Maybe it's smaller than that. Maybe I'm overestimating how many people at this table. But they're just like talking amongst each other. But you're directly like looking at the person, talking about them, and obviously it was going to come to head. So finally, it's like, all right, let's air this dirty laundry. Let's get it all on the table. Jesse speaks up. This moment was extremely frustrating. Okay. Jesse was basically demasculated in front of, now it's going to be in front of the whole world, but in that moment, just between him and his wife. And I felt like he overcompensated it quite a bit by trying to overly stick up for Michelle in this moment and just go at Kristen very, very hard, very disrespectful, very ignorant, very rude. I understand there's an aspect of defending your wife and defending what your wife's name is, because they do run a business, and being associated with these things could put these people and their careers in jeopardy. But come on, like, be respectful in this moment. Obviously, I gained so much respect for Luke in this moment as well, because he said he kept on talking just completely vile towards Kristen, and Luke stuck up for her. And Luke said, you could talk to me like that. We could take this outside." I was like, "Yes." But then Jesse was like, you could shut up and sit down." I'm sorry, but if Jesse looked at me like this and said that, there's no coming back. We're fighting. I don't care if there's cameras. I don't care who's around. You're not going to talk to me, and you're not going to talk to my significant other like this. Even Michelle was like saying to the camera that Kristen was attempting to uh, kind of apologize and say her side, but everybody would just keep over talking to her. Like nobody would listen to her. And it's crazy to watch Zach just sit over here in this little corner and just let her die on this hill all by herself when he is the one that started this entire thing with the chitter chatter. Of course, that was kind of the end of the episode. Kristen was talking about how she got canceled for some of the things that she said a few years ago. And how a lot of those things kind of affected her day-to-day life, and she apologized for everything that went down. She felt very sorry and stuff like that. But next week's episode should definitely be even more interesting because we'll get the aftermath of this dinner. Very, very excited about it. Love to hear your thoughts on this week's episodes of The Valley. Very interested, very excited. I'm really digging the show, basically just because of the drama. It is insane. Now, folks, without further ado, we are going to jump into the first 3 episodes of Vanderpump Villa. This was definitely insane. Vanderpump Villa, the first 3 episodes dropped on Hulu April 1st. The next episode will drop on April 4th. It follows the handpicked crew of Lisa Vanderpump's French villa as they live and cooperate to satisfy each extravagant want of their affluent visitors. Obviously, we had an interesting cast of characters throughout this episode. And let's go ahead and dive in. I kind of took notes per episode in this first episode. They talk about, we have Jeremy and Sharon are going to be their first guests. They have a secret proposal. I loved how like Telly said nothing about spilling the beans. I just think it's funny to me that so many people were just like on the edge of the seat, not spilling the beans. Just don't spill the beans. Eric is recently divorced and everyone has the hots for him. Priscilla's already planning to kiss him. Hannah and Marciano, they used to date each other, and Marciano job said that they implemented a policy about not sleeping with his coworkers at his real job because he wouldn't stop sleeping with them. Marciano is said his best date night. So we're at the table. Okay. Let's talk about this for just 1 minute. Okay. Marciano is at the table and they asked what his best date was. They're playing a game where you flip a thing over, they talk about what the best date, like whatever's on the thing, you read it out loud, you talk about it. He flipped his card over and said that he went out to dinner with Hannah. It was the best date of his night because she came back and gave him the best blowjob he's ever had. After this moment, these two are gone back to the bed. Hannah and Marciano are back in the bed smooching each other. What? Like this entire look, I'll say this, okay, and that's just the gist of what happened in the first episode, right? You know what I mean? Like we're getting ready to prepare for everybody to come in. Telly and Marciano are taking shots, which is already pissing off Lisa, and she confronts him, and luckily he got out of it. He just like completely bailed on her and was like, I'm not going to say anything at all, and just ran. He bolted. He didn't like the confrontation from Lisa, so he ran for his life. Now, Marciano is definitely going to be somebody that's going to keep on ending up on all of our shit lists. I think that he's just this new variation of a character that nobody's going to really love. Heading into episode 2, Eric confronts Telly and isn't saying anything to Marciano. This to me was really insane. Like Marciano starts taking shots off the table. Lisa calls a meeting, confronts everyone, and Marciano says everything went good, and she calls Marciano out and Hannah out for their drinking. Lisa calls us out because of him confronting Telly. There was a big battle in that first episode where we saw Eric and Telly, Marciano and Telly go after each other. And she kind of shoved it, right? Telly shoved Marciano. They went back and forth, and it was like a very aggressive moment. Eric was really on top of Telly's ass about it without saying anything to Marciano. And that really pissed me off. And I loved loved Lisa calling his ass out because of it. The amount of respect I gained for Lisa in this moment, and it's somebody that she's creating television, but at the same time, she calls him out on the spot, and it was beautiful because you just don't talk and disrespect women in the manner that he did in that moment. And then Emily shared a story about domestic violence, and it kind of reminded her in that moment. It was a very soft-spoken moment. Again, his aggression, we can tell Marciano this is not the first time he's acted in this aggressive way towards a woman because he had no problem doing it right there with cameras on his ass. Lisa called out Eric for doing a shitty job, but he tells the camera she thinks he did a great job, which doesn't make any sense. This Eric guy is a clown. Lisa confronts Telly about what went down. I love how she really kind of broke down Telly here and made her made her tell her how she really felt. Very beautiful moment between these two. Telly and Marciano kind of make up. Tonight is the big proposal. Big fan of Andre here. Hannah gets a smooch on the cheek from Ethan during a game when they're playing with a guest. And then, of course, Marciano finds out about it and he gets pissed. These two aren't even together. Why is he pissed off? I just don't understand that entire situation. Lisa confronts Jeremy about why it's taking him for so long to propose. He tries his proposal on Lisa, and she just kind of shits on it, which was kind of funny as well. Priscilla was spread eagle on the couch and in front of Marciano. I think she was just literally just trying to lay there and relax, and Hannah just went off the deep end because of it. Very, very, very dramatic moment there. There was comment cards. Some of them try to read the comment cards before they delivered them to Lisa, and she was pissed. Lisa had summoned Telly and Andre. They pinpointed them two as the two best employees. She sent Andre out of the room, and Lisa mentioned to Telly she wanted people to like her, and they did. Very beautiful moment between these two again. Andre comes back in. Everyone said he was the best amongst all of the crew. He kind of break down here, and he just had a moment. He said that he has no one to call. His mom has passed, father isn't around. Lisa talked about being proud of him. We even see Lisa in this moment kind of get choked up. It's 14, and it was just a beautiful moment. Like Andre kind of broke down, mentioning he doesn't feel that worth. It doesn't feel that sense of value to himself. And we see this beautiful moment between these two, and it kind of shows a side of him that is very vulnerable and very somber. And I don't know, Lisa has really handled these individuals a little bit better than I kind of expected here. But I do love that there's the healthy balance of reality and this out of proportion kind of reality TV version of the show too. We got the drama, but we got the sincerity too. We see Priscilla confront Hannah about the spread eagle thing, which is just insane, which transitioned into episode 3. Hannah and Priscilla are fighting again. She's mad at Marciano too. She calls Marciano a piece of shit and said he doesn't check on her whenever she's in med battle. Grace is quite smitten by Andre, which is going to be something fun to kind of watch throughout the season. Eric's deciding to run things like a military fashion, so he's like confronting everybody, screaming and yelling, and he's like, I'm going to do this, and we're going to do it this way, and we're going to do it this way. Lisa arrived and was very confused. She brings up that the last guest saw the altercation and they need to get that shit under control. Tonight they're having a butterfly rebirth ball. Caroline confronts Eric about his dumb talk. Eric said he doesn't care if they don't respect him. He has a game plan and will do it how he wants to. She burned at the same time they're having the conversation. She was burning a croissant that's in the oven. Marciano comes up to tell her about the burnt croissant instead of taking the burnt croissant out of the oven, instead of being a helpful fucking person. So instead of that, on top of her talking back to him saying, hey, why don't you just help me out here? He goes and takes the fucking croissant and puts it on her bed. Like, of course, this led to a fight. Harlan and her crew have arrived to celebrate her facial feminist surgery. It's a huge step in her transition. Congratulations to her. Eric is changing Lisa's plans already. And then Steven talked about how important this entire thing was for him. He was the first openly gay person in the Air Force. He was able to let everyone celebrate he's excited to let everybody celebrate their authentic version of themselves. Steven confronts Eric, and Eric isn't happy. Eric is changing everything again. He changes where the breakfast is going to take place, but where he moves the stuff to is where Gabrielle is having an event. So this causes a mass confusion. And it was just, we have a beautiful moment there between, well, I'm sorry. First, Lisa found out Eric changed his plans. She isn't happy. Eric is pissed at Steven about snitching on him because apparently Steven applied for Eric's job but didn't get Eric's job. So that kind of caused some ruffling of the feathers there. We get a conversation between Lisa and Harlan that she's finally happy she's becoming the person she wants to. I love Lisa's uplifting conversations with her and having that conversation. And then let's see here. Was it Grace or was it Gabriella that had the crush on Andre? I'm trying to remember. Sorry in advance, guys. No, it's Grace. Sorry. Grace is struggling with her insecurities. Love that. Eric is trying to assert himself everywhere, and he's ranting about how he's doing everyone's job. After the dinner, so this is crazy. So after the dinner's over, everybody's off the clock so they can party with the guest. This was insane. So obviously this is one of those things, again, this is my first foray really into this Vanderpump Villa type of thing, but I've seen type of shows like this before. But everybody's kind of off the clock. We got Andre flirting with Grace. Gabriella is respecting Grace. That's what it was. Gabriella is respecting Grace want of him, so she's kind of standing off. And then things get crazy as we get ready to. This was the perfect end of 3 episodes before we go into a weekly venture, because Eric asked Telly for a shot, and she says no. Basically, she says no to him, and then Eric pours the whole bottle down his throat. And this was one of the craziest things that I've ever seen in my entire life. It was wild. It was insane. But that was the end of the episode, where we see a preview for the next episode, where we see him just going butt ass naked, basically dancing around. And that means this next episode promises to be wild and crazy, because Lisa and her repercussions for their actions is definitely going to be something fun to see. Folks, let me hear your thoughts on what happened in the Valley episode 3. Let me also hear your thoughts on what you thought about the first 3 episodes of Vanderpump Villa. Next week, I will be back breaking down both of these shows again. We'll have episode 4 of Vanderpump Villa, and then, of course, actually episode 4 of The Valley as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Love and Reality Podcast. I'll talk to you guys next week.